welcome to the Flourishing Life podcast. This is where we talk with wonderful human beings as they outline how God is using them powerfully in their sphere of influence. Today, we've got Pastor Nikki Nucifora in the studio. She's been in Brisbane helping the CHC School of Ministries with a 2-day pastoral care intensive. She's also been working with our national leaders today. She's a woman in demand with tremendous insights. Nikki Nucifora, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
So, can you explain all the many things you're involved in one long sentence, just to give us a bit of an idea of sort of the filters of which we're going to have a conversation today, please?
Sure. Well, I'm a wife, mum of 3, under 7. So that's my main role in life. And small business owner, but pastor of a local church, and a clinical psychologist that's in private practice.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the private business that's called Between Sundays?
Yeah. So I've just launched a new direction for my private practice where I've labeled it or called it Between Sundays, and it's about helping leaders, ministry leaders, thrive in the in-between moments, because that's where the heaviness of ministry comes in and where the real need is.
And you've also a podcaster too, aren't you?
Yeah.
Called Mentally Well in Ministry.
Yes. I have a podcast, so I don't have quite as many episodes as you, but yes, I have a podcast, Mentally Well in Ministry. Yeah. Yeah, it's chipping away there when I can find time to...
Well, I can't wait for us to get through our questions, because I can just picture people driving along going, oh, I need this woman in my world. But let's start off. How did you end up becoming a psychologist?
Well, I actually thought I wanted to become a physio. So I started studying human movement studies, and I got 2 years in and I absolutely hated it. I hated it with every fiber in my being. And there was some psychology subjects that were just prerequisites as part of that. And I realized that I was really interested in those. And, learning about interpersonal skills and the sports psychology side of it. And I thought to myself, I'm in the wrong degree here. This is not where my passion is. So I transferred unis and transferred degrees and ended up in the Bachelor of Psychological Science and did that. And then took a couple of years off because then I still didn't know what I wanted to do with that psychology degree. And then I felt a prompting, from God to head into the master's program and do my clinical psych training. So I did that, and that's, how I ended up on the road to psychology.
Wow.
Yeah, it was kind of by accident maybe, or, by figuring it out along the way.
Yeah, I'm with you. I got fascinated with psychology. Did a Bachelor of Business in Accounting. We had an elective unit, so Unit 24 at QUT. I did applied psychology, learned about Pavlov's dogs and conditioning, and I just thought, gee, I'm interested in this, because I know even at QUT now they run units on behavioral economics. These are the things that drive the algorithm. I realized that people don't buy things off the internet through logic. It's by emotion. There's a psychology. As a matter of fact, my family have banned me. There's no authorized online purchases unless I have a responsible adult. Yeah, the algorithm, the psychologists they've been able to get me. I was surprised yesterday when you told the students how much training is involved to be a psychologist. Can you just unpack just the level of commitment it's taken someone like yourself to get to where you are, to put your shingle out and to run a business?
Yeah, it's a long journey. So it's a 3-year bachelor degree with an extra year, a 4th-year honours year. In that honours year, you do your regular full-time subjects, but you also write a thesis. So it's a very intense year. In order to be eligible for the master's programs that a lot of the psychologists want to get into, you generally have to be a first-class honours graduate. So straight 7s across the board. You have to do very well academically. And then you compete to get into master's program because the cohort is very small and selective. So that's a process of an interview and They take into account your life experience, your skills and your natural counseling skills, and you do a role play usually. And then you do, I think in my master's cohort, there was 8 or 9 of us. That's as many as they take. Yeah. It's a lot of one-on-one intense training that the universities have to do to develop a psychologist. So it's not usually like hundreds of people and they're all getting trained together. It's very intimate. It's very, very, a lot of one-on-one. So yeah, I did my master's degree in clinical psychology. And from there, you then go out and you practice and you have a job, but you go into what's called a clinical registrar program, which is where you have a supervisor that you meet with generally weekly and discuss your cases, and you get specialized ongoing training on the job. And then after 2 years of that and a certain amount of hours,
There's more.
Yeah, after a certain amount of hours, you then can say that you are a psychologist with clinical endorsement.
Okay.
Yes.
And then you have to be registered with APRA, which is a registering governing professional body.
Correct.
And with that comes even more ongoing study and professional development as well.
Yes. So with our registration, we're required to do 30 hours of continuing professional development every year. It's expected certain amounts of that are supervision, and we do what's called peer supervision as well. So that means that we're, talking and relating with other colleagues and professionals in our field to get their thoughts and eyes on certain cases we might be working with, that we might need somebody's thoughts on how might be best practice and best way to treat that individual. So yeah, it's a lot of workshops, trainings, readings, supervision, work on yourself. It's ongoing.
You just don't go and fiddle with people's minds. There's a lot of intense training. Thank you for your discipline. So what does a psychologist do? Are you like a magician of the mind or something?
Yeah, it's a common thing that people can easily think that just because you're a psychologist, they kind of step back when you tell them that sometimes, and they think, oh, you're immediately psychoanalyzing me, or you immediately kind of know everything I've ever done, and you can see it on their face. I always make a joke that it's incredibly difficult for me to make friends at a party when I tell them I'm a psychologist and a pastor, because they think, number one, I'm a psychologist, I'm reading their mind, and number two, I'm a pastor, I'm judging them for it, right? So they're like, oh, anyway, I'm out of here, I'm going to go get a drink over there. I make the joke that I often people are like, oh, so what do you do? I'm like, oh, I'm a physio, because it's just easier. Or just tell them about my candy shop.
Yeah, okay.
That's what I do. Yeah. Makes friends easier. So yeah, I think there is this idea that we can read people's minds, but we only know that's a psychic, right? I guess, can they do that? Well, I don't know. But psychologists essentially are in the business or in the science of understanding human behavior and emotions, and how those things interact and interfere or cause problems for us to stop us from flourishing in life. So clinical psychologist, which is the area that I'm involved in, is specifically about the diagnosis and treatment of mental health disorders that can range from mild to complex.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's comprehensive. So you and Luke are pastors as well.
Yeah.
In the church space, obviously, because of professional boundaries, you can't have people with clients and you can't be their pastor. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
So what role do you see the church doing to help people? This is your different hat that you wear. What role do you see the church in providing pastoral care or helping people?
Yeah, I'm really passionate about pastoral care and what the church can provide people to alleviate suffering. I think it's an important call of the Christian to, be Christ to people, to help the brokenhearted and to, walk with broken people. So I think that pastoral care is such an important ministry, and it it shows the heart and love of Christ to people. So although it's not in any way a mental health treatment, it's simply just walking alongside somebody and being a friend, being a support, being someone to pray and encourage. I think we can underestimate the significance of that sometimes. We're not like a psychologist that's doing this intense treatment and, whatever. But the power of just being present for someone and just praying for them and encouraging them and believing in them, that does more, I think, that people really acknowledge sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard one Christian leader say, like, we partnering with God to heal the hurts of humanity.
Yeah.
And I feel that's just quite an epic statement. I think I'll sign up for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So talk to us about, in your pastoral care sort of coordination role, how do you understand a continuum of care? Like, what sort of options are there available for a pastor to recommend or oversee so that people can get the suitable care that they need?
Yeah, I think it's important as pastoral carers that we're across this and the different disciplines and that can offer care to an individual, because every individual is different in what they're needing. So some might need, they might have health concerns. For instance, like an elderly congregation member, you might be noticing that they're maybe showing signs of Alzheimer's, for instance. You're thinking they're deteriorating. So you might really strongly suggest, let's take you to your GP. Let's get you checked in with them. If somebody's struggling with their mental health, it would be important that you connect them with a mental health professional, whether that be a counselor or a psychologist. And the pathway to that is usually their GP again, to getting the right referrals in place and things like that. But also, there's a range of support services. So if their specific social situation or environmental situation is one of they're at risk of homelessness, or they are in a DV relationship or something like that, then you might connect them with a service that doesn't necessarily need a referral, although you would want to let your GP know about that too. So, DV Connect, or one of the homelessness services in your local area, for instance. So when we're talking about, continuum of care and looking after people, I think it's important that we're thinking about a care team and we're thinking about all of the different areas that a person might need assistance. But one thing that I think is important that I think a lot of pastoral carers sometimes forget is they can just become a referral service, and they again lose sight of the significance of pastoral care. So, they think they've done their job by linking them up with somebody. And it's an important job. It is, because often we're the first people to encounter people in the church, like people don't know where to go sometimes, even from the community, and they'll come to the church for prayer or whatever. And you'll realize, certainly I can pray for you, but see inside there's mental health stuff going on. Let's make a referral. So I think it's important with the continuation of care that pastoral carers keep walking with an individual. They keep having that, regular kind of check-in, whether it's a phone call or it might be more of a coffee with somebody, and offering that continued support that they might need to keep engaging, and just have someone in their corner.
So from your experience, when do you think are good times for someone to consider going and seeing a psychologist?
I think if you're asking yourself that question, like, should I see someone? It's probably an indicator you should see someone, because you're obviously kicking up something's not working in my life or something's not going well. So I think that's also important, because some people, they won't go see someone when things are mild, because they think, I don't want to waste an appointment space, or I don't want to, burden a psychologist with something that's only mild. But I think it's important to recognize that you can go to a psychologist for milder forms of disruption in your mental health. It doesn't have to be complex and severe. And in fact, that can really be early intervention that can stop something from becoming something a whole lot more difficult in your life. So if you are asking yourself that question, there's no harm in booking an appointment. If you're the pastoral carer looking at somebody going, when is it time to refer? I think that you're looking for those signs and symptoms of psychological distress. So that, there's a couple of things you can look for. That if sleep is being disrupted, waking early, are not able to get to sleep at night or waking a lot in the night, appetite, not as eating as much or eating more and having rapid weight loss or weight gain, having things like social isolation and withdrawal where they usually were outgoing, things like low motivation or like apathy, or loss of interest in things that they used to find interesting. You think, oh, you're always about this, but you just don't seem like you have that zest for life anymore. Those sorts of things are really important. If we're looking at like irritability or anger, particularly in men, thinking this is out of character, just really angry, really irritable, generally a sadness or an anxiety underpinning that. So it just presents more as an anger. So those sorts of things are things to kind of be on the lookout for. And I think if you're seeing these really, really big behavioral changes and signs, they're usually a symptom or a sign that there's emotional and mental changes going on that need addressing. So, of course, if anybody's even mentioning things like hopelessness or feeling like you're seeing these thoughts coming out like I'm a failure, you're just hearing that flavor through people's conversation. You might think, oh, I think it would be good for you to work through these.
Yeah.
Even if there wasn't any of those psychological distress symptoms, but you could see there was low self-esteem just from negative self-talk or whatever you might, suggest. So there's lots of reasons you could send somebody.
Yeah. Or suggest a referral.
Yep.
So when someone comes and sees you, what are the sort of strategies or tools or therapies that you would consider using? Can you start to name some of them? Because I think you've got a specialty in a couple of them, so we can cover those too.
Yeah. Well, I guess what most psychologists are trained in and very well is cognitive behavioral therapy, and it's a gold standard treatment for a range of difficulties. And I think they're important skills for people to learn, that, we change the way that we think, we change the way we behave, and we can change our life, we can change our functioning. So it gives you a range of different tools to challenge your thinking, to correct your thinking that's sort of distorted or wrong, to identify those disordered thinking, but also looking at the behaviors that are keeping a depression, funk, or anxiety going. So, we look at getting some things back in place. One of the therapies that I like using though is schema therapy, and schema therapy is it was sort of developed in the 80s, and it was Jeffrey Young who was really pioneered it, and he brought a whole range of therapies together, including CBT, but some other therapies, Gestalt and attachment-based theories into his therapy, because he noticed there were these trends in the patients that he was seeing, both in the origin, so the early life experiences, and the way that they present later with behaviors and thinking patterns. So he started studying that and forming those thoughts together, and it's been, in research for many, many, many years now, and it's quite a common therapy now that we use. So I enjoy using schema therapy, also EMDR, which is a really emerging space. So that's eye movement desensitization reprocessing, and really in the space of trauma, there's just phenomenal results coming out around the use of this, and I use it as well with trauma, and it is phenomenal the way that it helps people, and we don't quite understand why it works. We have theories around what's happening in the brain that helps process trauma with this eye movement, but it is far less invasive to some of the previous therapies, which was like exposure therapy, where you would go over and over and over a traumatic event in as much detail as you could, and you really like sitting in high levels of emotion.
That could always like re-traumatize people.
Yeah, well, I mean, they have to revisit it and revisit it and revisit it until the brain doesn't see it as threatening anymore. Whereas EMDR, you are revisiting it, but you're letting your brain mechanics or the mechanisms of the brain process it for you, and you will generally feel things changing in the image. You will sense emotion rising up and coming back down. But it's really phenomenal how people can just move through and seemingly fairly quickly. just things that they've been stuck on, and regular typical therapies haven't really assisted long term.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well, people I referred to you,
Yeah.
that schema, the schema therapy has worked wonders for them.
Yeah.
So just roughly, how many schemas are there? Is there one or two that you see that are common with people or people in ministry or something you see, oh, that's the usual suspect?
So there's 16 schemas. I think they may have just added 2 more. It's a field that keeps getting evolved. And there are certainly ones that I see as a bit of a trend in ministry folk. The first one would be what we call unrelenting standards. So having self-worth is really based on achievement, and having these really high standards for yourself, and having a sense that nothing is ever really quite good enough. And I need to keep performing and being perfect in order to really fully feel satisfied. So, you see lots of, really high expectations in the culture of the churches on themselves, new initiatives a lot of the time, feeling like they need to sort of outrun God, like outrun even what he's trying to do in their church, but they're trying to achieve because and you can see it's coming from more of a place of trying to feel like I'm good enough. So that's a big one. I think self-sacrifice can be big in pastoral carers, especially, not always your senior leadership, but in pastoral carers. So that's the sense that I am trying to, that other people's needs are more important than mine, and I have to keep people happy and keep people pleased. And I usually want to do that so that I can alleviate their suffering, or so that I can avoid conflict, or so that I can avoid feeling guilty myself.
Gee, that feels real, especially as our colleagues. I hear that language.
Yeah.
I see that phenomena.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be helping some.
Yeah.
Well, that's helpful. Now, you recommended to the students yesterday a book.
Yeah.
Now, this one is called Reinventing Your Life by Jeffrey E. Young. So how would this book, I don't get any Amazon affiliate link or something like that, but it says discover the tools and techniques to create a more positive and productive environment, develop fulfilling relationships. This is written in quite easy to understand language. Is there a reason why you recommended this book?
Yeah, I recommend it to everybody. I love it. Yeah. It is written for the lay person. It's not a clinical textbook. And Jeffrey Young, I think there's another author there, Susan.
Yeah, Janet.
Oh, Janet.
Janet Klosko.
Yeah.
Yeah. They both got PhDs after them.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah, they're, schema therapists is what we call them. And, they wrote a layperson's book, and it's a self-help book to really understand schemas and to reflect on whether those schemas apply to you. So it doesn't go through all 16 or 18 schemas. It really highlights just the main ones. There's probably 10 in there. And at the beginning, there's a little self-assessment you can do, 10 questions, and you can rate how much that resonates with you, how much you agree with that statement. And that will give you an idea of whether that schema is something that you would have quite activated in your life. And then from there, there's a whole chapter on it, and it talks from the perspective of their own patients, or made-up patients, and it will it gives you like little discussions and case studies, I guess, on how it presents in somebody's life. What are the common early origins, so early life experiences that help develop this. And then how does it come up in relationships? How is it disruptive in some ways?
No wonder you're recommending that. Sounds helpful.
Yeah, it's really good. And then at the end, it's got cognitive behavioral ways you can start changing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So this links to something you said powerful to the students yesterday, and I heard at least it mentioned 3 times today. Remember what Nikki said, this concept of self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk to us a bit about why you think that's so important?
Yeah. Self-awareness is underrated skill in the life of a leader. It is so important to be self-aware. The reason being is that I think when you're more self-aware, you're more emotionally intelligent, and you're more safe to the people around you, because you understand what it's like to be on the other side of you a little bit more, right? Nobody understands it quite like the other person. So if they're giving you feedback, you're going to listen. Kind of like, well, I know everything about myself. We like to think we're very self-aware. I used to think I was really self-aware. And then I got diagnosed with ADHD last year, and I went, how on earth did I miss that? I am a psychologist. I diagnose this in other people, and I missed it in myself. And I missed it because I had all of the reasons why life was hard for me, and it had nothing to do with me. It was everyone else's fault I was on time, and it was, the kids and husband and this and that and whatever. And I think really when I was confronted with that, I was like, oh no, it's me. I have difficulty with planning, executing, and being on time. And, I've got all these things that I put in my life to make life work for me. But really, it's me. I got some problems in this area and I need help. So that was a big thing for me to go, wow, we are not self-aware as people. I'm not self-aware. So I need these processes that help me to be self-aware. And I think something like this book is helpful in just unpacking a little piece of that to go, what can I learn about myself that I otherwise, if I hadn't have been asked that direct question and put it in a score, I never would have thought of myself as, I have got
Thank you for trusting the whole world is this for that revelation. But it does prove the power of self-awareness, which is your main point, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you did have some teaching recently in a church, which I heard about, and then you shared with the students, which is amazing. You talked about different coping modes in ministry, which links to your passion to help pastors and the practitioners. Can you talk to us about some of the keys there that would help people listening now?
Yeah. So generally speaking, in life or in ministry, when there's we would call it like a triggering event, and that could be like overwhelm, just too much on your plate. You might feel like you're failing in ministry. It might be that you receive criticism from your upline or someone in your church. There's a triggering event. Generally, we have these sort of schemas that are sitting under the surface. And when there's something that's happening in our life that feels very similar to an early life experience that helped develop that schema, it's like it pushes that button. I talk about it being like a volcano that's dormant, and then it gets pushed and it erupts. What happens then is that's an uncomfortable feeling. It's uncomfortable to sit with, I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy, or nobody likes me, or whatever it is. So what happens is this is schema therapy, we have these coping modes that come and protect us. They're kind of like parts of us that come into action, and they step in and they take control. So yesterday in the intensive, I taught on the different coping modes, and they're generally categorized in our fight, flight, or freeze mechanism. So some fight coping modes might be something like an overcompensator mode, a bully and attack mode, a controller mode. So, overcompensator is I'm going to work harder, do more, be better. So I stay up later. I do extra degrees that I don't need. I over prepare. The over controller might start micromanaging the office and everybody on their team because they don't want this initiative to fail, and they're so scared of letting go of control. The bully and attack might be somebody who asserts themselves very strongly in meetings and doesn't allow other opinions to come out because they feel too threatening. So I'm going to sort of be very, almost very strong in my meetings and let people know they can't push me over. The flight responses are things like, detached protector, detached self-soother. And this is where we pull away from difficult feelings, and we either kind of numb out or use other behaviors or other things in order to soothe us. So it could be like porn use, or it could be alcohol use. It could be just doom scrolling on your phone, Netflix. And then we have our freeze responses, which is like our hopeless surrenderers and our, it's really just like a shut down, what's the point? It's moving more in that depressive kind of feeling, but it's like this sense of what's the point? Low motivation. I'm not really feeling this anymore. It's generally when people want to move and quit.
Wow.
Yeah.
So imagine a husband and wife are driving down the road down, listening to this podcast, and they're looking at each other. So regardless of what they think it's you, if something that you just said, someone's resonating with how they go, wow, I need to know more about that, or like, what do I do? What options do they have?
I think you can obviously do some reading about schema modes. You can Google them and look. There's plenty of sort of websites that will educate on what they are. But truly, if you want to work on deactivating them and if you feel like you're sitting in them often, it's probably a sign that there's a schema, a deeper invulnerability that's being triggered often in your ministry role, and that needs addressing because this mode is constantly switched on, right? So what we want to do is we want to work on helping that vulnerability to heal and to feel less. And then what happens is that mode then hopefully will switch off a little bit. And we want to establish what we call in schema work a healthy mode, a healthy adult mode, which is this part of you that knows that it's okay, you're doing a good enough job. I can rest in God's grace. I don't have to push. I don't have to serve people to the point of exhaustion. I can have boundaries. So that's the healthy voice. And we have that. We all have that because we give that to so many other people. We sit in these pastoral care and it's healthy Nikki who shows up, right? But in my own space, when I'm getting challenged in a meeting or something like that, it might be one of my more dysfunctional modes that will come and switch on.
Okay.
And so I be conscious.
This is getting real now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, it's so easy to listen to. So if you want more, you just got to follow it on a podcast. Just listen to some more good advice. So you mentioned practical viewing meetings. So you and Luke run a church in Cairns, that part of the Elevation Network. So how does it go being a pastor and then a psychologist? When you're pastoring a church, what does that look like, or what sort of things have you had to put in place to make sure that the boundaries are maintained?
Yeah. I must say our congregation has been really respectful of the boundaries. I just, there have been the odd person who have approached me and asked me to be, could I counsel them or could I do psychology with them? And I have to be very clear that my ethical guidelines don't allow me to walk into what's called a dual relationship. So I cannot be your pastor and your psychologist, but I can recommend you to some really great psychologists that could help you, and I can continue to pastor you and walk beside you. So I have to be very conscious, as any professional does, to not move into spaces or, you can obviously in your head, you can't sometimes switch off the psychologist, but you do have to be conscious that that's not the space here. I'm just pastoring and I need to not bring that into the space here. But I think most of the time I'm Pastor Nikki. I'm not psychologist Nikki for them.
Or sidekick Nikki.
Your sidekick Nikki, yeah. I'm just regular mum chasing her kids in the foyer, and they see all my dysfunctions too, so they're probably like, so I have to be conscious of the dual relationship. I have to communicate that I can't do that. Being in Cairns too, if I see a Christian client, I have to, in a psychology setting, I have to be mindful that you can bump into them because it's a small community. You can bump into them in the supermarket. And we usually just talk about what we do if that came up. I'm not going to approach you. I'm not going to acknowledge you. It's not because I don't like you. It's because I want to protect your confidentiality. So it's sort of similar if someone was to walk into church, say, that was my client, and they didn't know I was a pastor or whatever, it would be the same thing. Unfortunately, we haven't had that situation yet. I'd
like to teach you to this to a broader session that the students gave great feedback on. As you did a great little power teaching on boundaries, and you gave some new language. Even one of the students said over lunch today, I like how Pastor Nikki gave me language like, when you've got to finish the session, you said something like, "This is really important. Can we push pause on this and then pick this up again next time?"
Yeah.
Gave them language and scripts. Can you just give us a couple of highlights, please, just on your teaching around boundaries? Because you've started to how it works with you in the pastoring psychological space, but why is it important, say, for pastors or people in ministry, just to know about boundaries, even like things like power differentials and things like that?
Yeah. So we have to be mindful when we're pastors. We're often bosses as well. So we have our staff, but then they're also part of our flock. So we have to be mindful that we're entering into a dual relationships when when we are both. And we have to acknowledge that with the person if we can't avoid it. So we have to talk about it. Hey, I recognize that I am your boss. So, and I'm also right now pastoring you, and that might make you feel uncomfortable if you were to disclose this thing that you're going on with. How's that going to affect my employment?
Yeah, that's real.
Or if I, disclose, and that's certainly come up. So I think where possible, it's best if somebody needs pastoral care and somebody else can offer it that's not their direct boss. I think it's helpful. That doesn't mean there's not some form of caring that's coming across. That sometimes the best, most caring thing you can do is say, I recognize this isn't the safest place for you to talk about this, because there might be, in the back of my head, I'm thinking about if she takes 2 days off work or how's that going to impact the organization? Yeah. And that is, we have to be real about that. So yes. So we have to be mindful of those power differentials and those dynamics within the workplace. I think too, when it comes to boundary setting, we have to be mindful that we need to model healthy relationships and healthy relationship dynamics. And healthy relationships have boundaries. And some people have come from such dysfunction in their life or in their family upbringing that there was no boundaries. Maybe they had boundaries violated to them. Maybe they have also, been boundary violators. There's differences in what people understand is healthy functioning. So we need to model what it is to have a healthy relationship. And a healthy relationship has boundaries, are not accessible to you, as is anybody else in your life. And that can be tough sometimes for the pastoral carer who just loves people. But it's important. It's also important for us to safeguard us and our energy. I talked about when Jesus is up on the mountain praying, and the disciples are like, "Oh, Jesus, we've been looking for you. All the people are asking for you." And Jesus is like, no, I'm not going to them. I'm going to this next town because that's my mission. And sometimes, we can get so deep into pastoral care, we forget that there are other missions. And pastoral care is an important mission, but it's not the only mission that a lot of us have. If we're the pastor of a church, we've got to prepare a sermon. We've got to have a meeting with our team to get other things happening. And we can't give 3 hours to a pastoral care meeting every day. So it's important we make space for it, but we have boundaries around it because there's other missions. It might be the mission of raising your family in a healthy way or having a good marriage. So you're not going to have these sort of late nights out where you're not having dinner with your family or you're on the phone to someone, So yeah, it's important that we recognize we need to balance the different things that God's called us.
I love that teaching you did, because I looked up the verse using the Passion Translation, because it's just got such a great conversational language. I thought I'd never seen it that way put before. Yeah. It must have been hard for Jesus, like it is for any pastor. Like it said, everyone who came was healed. So without social media, without telephone, the whole known world know that there was healing power flowing. So for Jesus to walk away from broken humanity when he had the power to do something, that's a big call for a leader, a pastor, to walk forward the other mission or even a better mission as directed by the Father.
Yes.
So if Jesus can do it, so can we.
Absolutely. And that's a good point, because a lot of people have, we talk about in psychology, internal rules for living, that we create these rules. And sometimes we have these rules of where self-sacrifice particularly is that if I have the means of doing something, I should. So if I can help this person, I should do it. And it's like this should statement. But like you're saying, Jesus had the means to heal people, but that didn't mean he did, or he took the time at that moment. He had to stay on mission. So my point in saying that is that we need to sometimes challenge that rule. Just because I can doesn't mean I need to right now or I should right now.
Well, it sounds like a stewardship issue. I remember you used the word stewardship in your boundaries teaching yesterday, that I was almost like setting appropriate boundaries as an act of stewardship, which actually honors God.
Yeah.
Well, you might not have said that, but that's what I heard. And I thought that was great. So maybe Holy Spirit was talking to me.
Yeah. It's just helpful to reframe it as, something that we're modeling health to people. We're stewarding our energy and our mission, our calling well. It's not this sort of I'm selfish and I'm setting boundaries, therefore I'm selfish and I'm uncaring. No.
Yeah.
I'm stewarding my call well. I'm taking care of the thing that myself, which in turn can help more people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know you're a blessing to our denomination and many other pastors. It became very clear your passion for the Between Sundays ministry, helping. Yeah. Can you just talk to us a bit more about that? What do you see your ministry, because it's a ministry?
Yeah.
What do you see your ministry doing for pastors?
Yeah. I just get heartbroken when pastors and leaders are dropping out of the call of God because they're burnt out, mentally unwell, or moving into like moral failings or having these sort of big behavioral things that take them out. And I think to myself, that can be prevented. If only we had prevented it, because I think we need good pastors and leaders to be long-term in ministry if we're really serious about, planting churches and having healthy churches that are going to bring health to communities. So I think that Between Sundays was birthed, I think naturally, because I attract a lot of pastors and leaders in my clinical practice, but I've also seen the benefit that can come from bringing health to them in this space, both preventatively, but also in the crisis moments when the pressures become too much and the coping modes are rearing their head and the schemas are activated and they're this close to dropping out of ministry. I hope we can jump in and redeem, help bring them out of that and see them restored and healthy again and loving ministry. And that's the thing. It's also not just about, we're going to stick in long term for ministry, but I want there to be joy in ministry.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you're struggling, you're not joy-filled, but you're just surviving. And I don't want to survive ministry. I want to enjoy it.
Thriving.
People are beautiful.
Surviving to thriving.
Exactly.
To flourishing.
Yeah. So that's the heart. I see joy long-term and health long-term.
Yeah. And talk quickly about professional supervision for pastors. Do you think it's an optional extra? Or even if it was mandatory, should we still do it anyway? Because it's just best practice?
Yeah. It certainly is best practice, in my opinion. There are many professions, including my own, where supervision is just part of it. It's just mandated. It's just cultural. That's what you do as a good practitioner, as a good allied health specialist, whatever it is that people do. It's important that they have this moment of self-reflection and that they are working through what they bring to the table in the spaces that they occupy with other people, because it's a dynamic. Even though I might be treating an individual, who I am comes to the table, what I carry comes to the table, and I have to be conscious of that and aware of that. And the more aware I can be of that, the more I can appropriately treat and help the other person. So I think when it comes to pastoral supervision, what I like about it is it builds that self-awareness. It's helping pastors and leaders to see or help them to see what it feels like to be on the other side of them. So, we use this analogy of the pit stop. So, or, supervision's kind of like you're in ministry and you're driving the car, right? And you're going over bumps and you're going around the track a million times and you're busy. But it's only when you pull into the pit stop and you've got your team around you that they can begin to assess and see the different parts of the outside of the vehicle that might be getting a ding, that tire needs changing, or this one's about to blow out, or whatever it is. And then they can see things that you can't see. They can see how you, the driver, is impacting the organization or the thing, but they can probably also see when you're in danger of having a blowout yourself. So I think that's probably a good analogy for pastoral supervision. It's these outsiders looking in going, hey, we might need to change this. This needs a tune up. You need a bit more oil. We're going to get you back into full health so you can keep zooming around and doing your thing in a healthy way.
For some men listening, we go, am I driving for Red Bull or Mercedes or McLaren? But regardless of that, get over the cars, anything, and who's your pastoral supervisor? I went and found one last year, psychologist.
Yeah.
It's great. I've got someone to go to.
Yeah.
Recommended by my family. So this is great.
Yeah.
It's good practice.
Yeah.
Good practice. So what do people do if they want to get more of Nikki, more of your teaching, more of your content, refer people, make a clinical engagement with you?
Well, you can find me on Instagram at Between Sundays AU is the handle. And on there, there's a little bit of reels from some of the podcasts. So I also previously, before I launched Between Sundays, have been doing a podcast in the background called Mentally Well in Ministry. And I interview other clinical psychologists or psychologists who are Christians, and we talk about ministry and mental health, and it's educational to try and help just our pastors and leaders get a little bit more insight into that world a little bit. So you can look at the podcast. It's still live on Spotify. And then I have a website, which is betweensundays.com.au.
Great. That's good. And pastors should also think about taking their long service leave, shouldn't they?
Yeah.
Annual leave, long service leave, and even a sabbatical. Have you seen what are the elements that do well? I know we have to book our holidays in advance because I used to never get round to doing them. So that's a practice that we've had to do. Have you ever seen anyone do long service leave or sabbatical really well?
I think what sabbaticals serve is just an opportunity to let your nervous system rest. It takes time for your nervous system to relax. And sabbatical, having that really long break and switch off, is just needed. You don't realize how much cortisol and adrenaline you're running on until you aren't anymore, and you go, wow, I'm sleeping so much better. I'm relaxed. I'm enjoying life again. And yeah, I think that is what the sabbatical can really serve. So I think that I would caution against doing too much, actually. I think, pastors and leaders and people who have that unrelenting standard, they use holidays to read a self-help book or to start their gym journey, or to start the diet. That they don't do that. Like, relax, take some rest, don't achieve. Make it your goal to not achieve anything you've been achieving for years and years. If you're taking a sabbatical, just enjoy. Make it your primary goal to enjoy life. Find things that spark you that are outside of ministry. A lot of people in ministry, they don't have much outside of ministry. They don't have friends outside of ministry. They don't have hobbies outside of ministry. And what that does is you're putting all your eggs in one basket to find fulfillment. But the problem with that is when it's not going good, you put all your eggs in one basket, and that's pretty dangerous because you're building everything on this thing. So you need things that when this is a bit rocky, this is fun over here. This is enjoyable. I got this hobby. I got this thing. And I think sabbaticals, for people who've lost touch with that, it's helpful to find that again. And then
hit reset.
Yeah, hit reset and carry that rhythm back in. Yeah. That's how you can come back better.
Yeah. I had Gary Hurrigan in my sabbatical back in 2014.
Right.
And I decided I got a coaching qualification. I learned how to listen. I learned a new skill. I just wish I had done that earlier.
Yeah.
Went for a drive down Route 66. That was awesome. And then went on a trip to Turkey, 7 churches of Revelation. Then I walked the streets of New York for a week. I had a lot of fun in that 3 months. I just enjoyed life and got a blueprint to rebuild a key part of my life. I'm glad. Climbed Bell Rock in Sedona and just laid 7 rocks up there and made 7 declarations for my future. So anyway, this is the sort of stuff we should be talking about, hey, to inspire people to live healthy and whole, but longevity is the goal, isn't it?
Yeah.
It takes too long to build a good man or woman or God. There's too many people who, for many reasons or whatever challenges, are no longer in ministry. So I love your passion for this, Nikki. Thank you. I'm going to say thank you for who you are, and thank you for the contribution you make to make our world better. So if you're online listening there, right, wherever you are, start doing snaps for Nikki Nucifora. Thank you so much for your time today in the Flourishing Life. God bless you and keep being awesome.
Oh, thank you, Andrew.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure you look up Pastor Nikki at the Instagram site she said, and continue to give us feedback. If you particularly like this episode, send us a message and I'll make sure I get it to Nikki, because sometimes all you just need is a bit more encouragement in ministry. The day that you're going to give up can just become just another bad day if you get the right shot of encouragement. Let's be like Barnabas, encouraging each other to fight the good fight of faith. So God bless you. We'll see you in the next episode.